I am playing Valheim in reverse, using innovative tricks and challenging myself to beat Valheim, starting with the last boss and working my way backwards through the game. We are back for episode 2 of beating Valheim in reverse. Before we get started, I'm currently trying to make it to 2,000 subscribers. If you guys could help me get there, that would mean a lot to me, and thank you guys so much for watching. Now, last episode, we got our troll hide, we got a little base established, and we got some of our bronze as well as a pickaxe, lining us up very well to go to the swamp this episode and actually start to deal with the iron problem. Now, if you guys don't remember, I talked about the iron problem in last episode, and it is, well, how am I going to get iron? Because I don't have the swamp key, and I don't really want to use glitches for this playthrough. So I cannot bug into the swamp crypts, and I cannot get into them normally, and that is really the main source of iron. So we're going to prepare and get ready to start sailing there, and on the way, I'm going to talk about the many different ways that I think it's maybe possible that we can get past the iron block in this playthrough. Before we head out though, I wanted to make a stake wall, and in the process, very early on, I got interrupted by a troll. But that is okay because we're still running troll hide, and we absolutely need more to upgrade it to keep us safe because we are about to go into some biomes that we are not at all equipped for. After taking out the troll really quickly, I continued building the stake wall because I kind of want this to be like a little camp and kind of keep everything else out because the Grey Dwarfs are getting quite annoying, and while I will need the eyes, I do not want them constantly in my base messing with my stuff. After that, I spent a little bit of time getting more copper, more tin, and just generally getting the stuff for a portal and preparing to go to the swamp, anything that I would possibly need. Built our boat and then got some arrows ready as well as the stuff for a portal, and then we headed out, which went obviously extremely smoothly, and I did not place my boat in a lake and get it beached. Okay, after digging myself out of the lake that is my base, that I didn't realize was a lake though, it was pretty smooth sailing and we were able to find a swamp very quickly. After finding it, we set up a quick camp with a portal back to base, leaving us the ability to freely explore and start to test out some of these iron farming methods that I had in mind. And upon entering the swamp, I actually got very lucky. I got a lot of the resources that I knew I would need aside from iron. I got turnip seeds, and I also found a wraith during the day, but that's besides the point. And I was able to kill it for chains, which would unlock some of the cooking stations later down the line, as well as an upgrade for the forge. But while I start to explore the general area of the swamp to see what I'm working with, I want to explain the many different ways that I have theorized at this point in the playthrough are possible for me to get iron. Because those are very important, and the word theorize is very important because I want you guys to know that I haven't tested any of them. However, from playing the game, I have one guaranteed one that I know for sure, while it's not fast, will get me iron, which is killing oozers. Oozers have a chance to drop 1 iron and spawn in the swamp at night, as well as in the day in front of some of the crypts. That's not a very fast and efficient way, so while I'm waiting for nighttime, I might as well try the other methods in my head. As far as the swamp goes, in my mind, I think I can use a stag breaker to see it say too hard underground. The problem is it also does that with the ancient breakable trees, and that kind of stops you from finding it. But there is also a chance walking around the swamp randomly or digging randomly that you find scrap iron in the ground, as muddy scrap piles do not only spawn in the swamp crypts, they're just extremely rare outside of it, and you normally need a wishbone to find them, which I don't have. Now, on top of that, we can start looking at other biomes. See, if we go to the mountains, which we'll be in next, because all we really need for that is a frost mead, we don't have much else we can get to progress to there other than the frost mead. We can go to the mountains for our Fenrir armor, but we can also go for the doors inside of the frozen caves. The doors inside of the frozen caves also have a chance to drop iron, and the iron is already pre-smelted for us, which is pretty nice. This means that while we're there, as long as we break every door inside those frozen caves, we have a chance at getting even more iron. Now, past that, we get to the really difficult high death situations, but ones that are probably more likely high yield. The pots in the ashlands inside the caves drop iron, bronze, and even silver, and can drop a lot of other little pieces. However, I need iron, at least some, to get to the ashlands using my plan, and I would like some to build stone builds there with a stone cutter so that way I can keep my portal from burning. So that's kind of out of the question for right now, but it is possible later in the playthrough if we don't have enough iron to fuel what we're trying to do. Now, besides that, I can go to the Mistlands, and I think, I'm not 100% sure, that I can get the Seeker soldiers to break the iron from the Mistlands swords, as well as some copper, and then bring that back and smelt it. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that they should be able to do that. And then on top of that, my plan for all this iron is to eventually build Crom, which is just iron and bronze in the Black Forge, as well as the Arbalist, which is also just iron. But for the Arbalist, we're also going to need roots. So our first thing in the swamp to hunt for, besides iron, is also roots, which is what we're going to do now. We're going to try and find an abomination, get some roots, as well as explore this swamp for some iron. Now, upon the first things that I found inside the swamp was bone mass, and I found some surtling spawners, which actually saved me because I had a bunch of stuff chasing me, including a wraith, that just burned to it. Now, the next day when I came back to get my stuff, I was greeted with an abomination next to the spawner, which is exactly what I needed because I could use it along with my arrows to help me kill it. And that's exactly what I did. I stacked it on top of the surtling spawner until it started running with minimal health, and then finished it with just some basic wooden arrows, dropping me my roots, which I could use for a few different things. One, I could use them for better armor if I really wanted to, but I'd have to find a few more to kill them and decide whether I wanted that armor set or not, or if I'd like to keep my sneaky buff. And on top of that, I'd be able to store the roots for an arbalist and the guck for a Draugr in the future, which was great progression as far as everything else. From here, I began my first attempt at looking for iron using my stag breaker, and discovered very quickly what I meant by the ancient trees will confuse you by also saying too hard, and I tried it for a while, did not find any. But I came back to base, built a little cooking area inside our house, which we already had, but I improved it with a cauldron, and very quickly I figured out that inside the house was not going to work. I was going to have to move it outside because we were going to need more stuff soon. We were going to need improvements, a mead kittle. It was just not going to all fit inside. And I was going to need a lot more metal too, which is what I headed out to do next, because not only would I need metal for the mead kittle, but I'd also need it for a fermenter and for a cultivator, as well as a couple other things, which meant I was going to need a lot, so why not just go get it? And in the process, I discovered that swimming with all this metal back and forth constantly was extremely annoying, so I built a little bridge. And then I came home, built a mead kettle with the first metal that I gathered, and then all I had to do from there while I waited for it to smelt was get a bunch of fine wood and core wood, so that way I could build the cultivator and the fermenter for the mead bases and the farm that I was going to build. Now, I have two options for what to put in this fermenter. I can either do poison mead and keep going around the swamp, and I know you guys didn't see it, but I spent a lot of time looking for iron by just running around, couldn't find any oozers, did not find any sticking out of the ground, and could not find any with the stag breaker. So I'm kind of inclined to go with a frost mead base, frost resistance mead base, so that way I can go to the mountains and look that way. On top of this, I also built my cultivator and started planting the turnips as well as a couple carrot seeds I had right next to the fermenter. That way, in a few days, we'd be able to build the spice rack as well as some better food, or at least start planting more seeds for a better garden in the future. I then spent so many hours in the swamp, I don't even want to talk about it. Day and night, death after death, no oozers, no iron, no even possibility of getting a single piece of scrap, and I resorted to something much different, a portal to the Mistlands. Now, as I mentioned, I bet I could do the Mistlands by getting there and getting Seeker soldiers to break the swords. At least I, at the time, was theorizing that I could do so, and it was not gonna hurt me to go look, because at this point I had spent probably 5 to 6 hours in the swamp, day and night, death after death, had found a few oozers, but no iron from them, and was getting absolutely desperate for any sign of iron that I could find. So I went back to base, upgraded my troll hide as much as I could with what I had collected, and headed out on a journey to the Mistlands. Now, obviously this journey is going to be quite far, as even the farthest thing from our base, the swamp, is very close, and we have not really been very far from spawn, as well as I need to be very careful because I am still in troll hide and have no chance of surviving anything in the Mistlands or any of the other biomes that are probably around it. And I continued to sail and sail and sail even further than I really thought that I'd have to, but finally I came upon a Mistlands and a serpent. Luckily for me, I was able to dispatch of the serpent fairly quickly, and on top of that, I also got a decent amount of meat. However, the scales sunk to the bottom of the ocean as I was not dealing with trying to keep those above water or jump in after it. And then it was time to make landfall on the Mistlands at night, which is extremely dangerous. I picked the first island I could that I could see myself getting up that was small and that I couldn't see any enemies on top of. And as quickly as I could, I got down my workbench as well as my portal, and then got ready for my first run into the Mistlands to explore. Before making that run though, I went ahead and slept through the night, and when I got back, the frost resistance mead that I had made that I had started making before I left was ready, as well as a bunch of the plants were ready to be harvested, which would give me a ton of new resources and the ability to make a spice rack, which I was able to get stuff for fairly quickly. And along with that comes a bunch of new recipes to check out and a bunch of more stamina foods and stuff like that I can make. And then I went ahead and replanted the extra stuff for seeds, and then it was time to head to the Mistlands. Now, I would be stupid if I think I had a chance of surviving in the Mistlands, so my best bet at this point in time is to go completely naked with just some food. That way I don't have to chase back anything if I die, and I'm able to get as much information about the surrounding Mistlands as I possibly can, chart it down on my map, and then go back with whatever preparations I may make. And it was not long before I ran into some seekers at an infested outpost. However, I did unlock a decent amount of Mistlands, as well as found some resources and other things that were interesting that I would be able to go back towards in the future when I was a little better prepared. On top of that, I purely spent as much time as I could just unlocking more map, more Mistlands, and seeing more things as I could. And I also wanted to check, I didn't think this structure was a me mine, and I was right, but I did just want to check just to be sure, so I didn't miss out on any possible loot, because I cannot afford that right now at this point in the series. Now, I spent about probably 2 hours in that Mistlands, trying to just map it out and maybe get a yawl to break a sword, or use a cart to knock against it, or find a seeker soldier, or maybe even get a diverger upset at me to break it, and I just could not get anything to work. Now, I want you guys to remember, yes, there are ways to do this, but at this point in time, I'm trying not to really look anything up, do too much research, and honestly, that was a mistake, but at this point in time, that's where I'm at, and I did not know any better, so I just tried to work out as many ways as I possibly could, and after spending about 2 hours there, I decided to go to a new Mistlands. And at that Mistlands, the first thing that I came across after finding some swords and doing some basic exploration was a diverger camp, which I was going to use to protect me, as this is the first one that I had really found, other than a couple rogues. On top of this, I did actually find a sword, but I got a seeker soldier to bite it, saying too hard. Now, as you guys probably know, it hitting it is what breaks it, not it biting it, but again, at the time I didn't know that. So I started a new possible idea. There was another Mistlands as well as a mountain nearby, and that would allow me to test the mountain theory about possibly getting iron from the doors, as well as have another Mistlands, so there was no reason not to set up a portal there, and I also had my frost-based meads, so that is what we're going to get into next episode. But for now, thank you guys so much for watching. I do truly hope you enjoyed. I'm currently trying to make it to 2,000 subscribers, so if you could help me get there, that would mean a lot to me. Either way, thank you guys so much for watching. I do truly hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys next time. Peace out.